All right, guys, this week for Tell Me the Damn Answer, I'm going to answer two questions, combine them into one answer. Read the questions here for you. The first one, uh, nutrition. Generally speaking, I follow the paleo approach to eating. I know every person is different, but is there a guideline I should be following as to the amount I should be eating? I really have been staying away from zoning everything because one, it is just a pain in the ass, and two, because it is a serious pain in the ass and may make me hate my food intake experience as a whole. No arguments with me there. The second question, this is in regards to fat loss. I've been strictly doing the strength WODs weekly, along with running 2 times per week and burpees every single day. More power to you. On a 100-day challenge, on day 66 currently. I understand that I'm not eating enough. I'm 100% very strict paleo, and my comfortable consumption runs from 1,000 to 1,400 calories a day, which I hear isn't enough. My intake is loaded with protein and healthy fats, really only getting carbohydrates from vegetables and a small serving of fruit. Today is my first day trying to consciously hit at least 1,800 calories, and I'm feeling sick to my stomach. I know that I'm being counterproductive by not consuming more and working as hard as I am. Hence the difficulty in fat loss that I'm having. On a side note, I'm seeing strength gains. Can you give me a little insight as to what you think I can do to improve intake to see fat loss results? All right, so as always, I'll be referencing my notes so I don't run long and lead you astray. So a couple quotes here. I'm going to combine these into one answer, and that answer focuses around food quality and not necessarily quantity, and actually it goes one step farther into almost sound like a broken record, but triaging our approach to reaching our goals. So a couple quotes stood out that I'm going to read here. First is, I understand I'm not eating enough. And the other one, which I hear, in reference to the 1,000 to 1,400 calories, which I hear is not enough. So that reeks of non-specific kind of word-of-mouth recommendations without necessary specific regard to you as an individual and your specific case, because there may be a lot more going on, and where I'm focusing is outside food. So I'm going to preface this answer with, I don't know everything about the individual that asked this question. Specifically, what situations outside of the gym are you facing, outside of what you just told me, and not specific enough to recommend that 1,400 calories is sufficient or insufficient, because I just don't know. And anyone who gives you very specific recommendations on quantity without really assessing everything going on could be, in terms of work output, your metabolic state, your stress outside the gym, sleep quality, quantity, all that could just be chucking spears and leading you back to kind of a cycle of it's the food, it's the food, it's the food, when it may not be the food. So your concerns revolve around fat storage. The other question was around quantity, but I'm going to get back to the same points near the end of this. So fat storage, retention, fat loss, they're regulated by remarkably complex systems and feedback systems in the body. And that's why it's still such a heavily researched topic, and there are a lot of disputes and disagreements on why the body stores fat specifically, and why certain people have difficulty losing it, certain people don't. So in general, that means there are no simple answers to it. So we're going to go through a triage again. Let's prioritize how we're going to solve problems regarding fat loss. So we can maybe put some order behind the chaos of solving this. So let's dive in from the standpoint of, instead of here's a solution, here are some considerations based on what both these questions have told us and what they're trying to seek out of it. So I heard a lot about food in there, but not anything else. So the number one absolute most important thing, again, broken record, without a doubt, is sleep and stress control for fat loss. I'm going to lump those two together because they kind of go hand in hand. Are you shift working? I don't know. Do you have irregular sleep patterns? Do you have 2 new puppies you got for Christmas that you're still waking up 2 to 3 times a night to let them out to go pee, and therefore sacrificing your own sleep and not recovering from your workouts, and kind of the trickle-down effect of persistently elevated cortisol or being stressed and lack of sleep will do that to you. Not to mention drive other cravings, potentially leading you astray from your diet, but it sounds like you're 100% strict. Are you regularly getting sunlight, AM sunlight exposure? Are you relaxing? Sufficient vitamin D? What is your overall stress? How do you cope with stress and handle stress? I'm not saying that it's a food issue, you're consuming too many calories by coping with stress. It is that if you do not cope or manage with your stress, then we have some downstream hormonal effects, which again could prevent fat loss. And the other thing to consider is stress can also affect your digestive system. You know, the brain, not in theory, in practice, actually does control the digestive system, the digestive process, and all stems from up there. So anyone ever done a lot of travel and found themselves either constipated or having diarrhea during or after that travel, that's one of the symptoms of that greater ill of stress in the mind can affect the digestive system. Well, specifically, excessive stress can make you hypochloritic, or affecting the stomach acid, and therefore insufficient digestion, which could make you feel full. So if you're all of a sudden bumping up to 1,800 calories, your body's more adapted to 1,400 calories, and you're stressed, you're hypochloritic, you may get an upset stomach, and that's where something like a digestive enzyme could come in. But now I'm just kind of chucking spears there in terms of things to consider, but that is one potential effect of stress. So number two, let's define paleo. From what you said, with 100% strict, it sounds like you're on top of your game with a baseline paleo diet centered around animal meats, animal proteins, and fat, veggies, roots, tubers, and fruits. I'm assuming your proteins are all animal proteins, and I'm assuming that healthy fats are not just nuts and seeds. There's something else outside of that, like butters, ghee, lard, tallow, greases, that kind of stuff from animals. And it's good to see you're eating paleo, vice the paleo pancakes and muffins and what Dr. Kurt Harris deemed the candy cigarettes, the replica foods or replacements, which the nutritional profile in a lot of paleo brownies and cookies is no different than the Snickers bar, except they don't have dairy or gluten in them, but it's still the same shit for your body. So the other thing is baseline paleo is going to avoid hyperpalatability of those foods that make you crave more of those foods or other foods in general, the trigger foods. Really, if anything comes in a package that crinkles when you open it, and you could eat an entire package of it and still want more, that's probably a hyperpalatable food. And Stefan Guillenet from WholeHealthSourceBlog.com has an excellent discussion of this in like a 10-part series. And I will add a link into the video for that. Here's something else to consider. Too little carbohydrate. Again, now I'm semi-chucking spears, but in the triage, this is down lower behind the sleep and the stress and the quality of food. It sounds like you dial the quality in. There's not one magic macronutrient combination for every individual in every situation. So that's why I'm not a fan of the zone per se. Even as a launching point, let's look into your specific situation. I'm not sure where you are in your specific metabolic state. I don't know what your fat percentage is or your stress, but if you're storing fat, you're most likely potentially slightly metabolically deranged, assuming there's no other greater thyroid dysfunction or anything else going on. A serious consideration, which Rob Wolf just discussed, and I'll put a link in the video, is the strength WODs, especially in the past month or so, have had some extremely glycolytically demanding conditioning work. And that is the 4 to 12 to 15-ish minute hard work where you're not slow-paced aerobic, but you are hard charge and ending up on your back on the floor, even if it's an interval work, that lactic work or lactic thresholding work. And glycolytically demanding work requires glycogen, hence glycolytically demanding work. And glycogen is just stored carbohydrate in the muscle tissue or the liver, and if your body has insufficient quantities of those, i.e. you're not eating enough or giving yourself the time to recover from workouts and your body to replenish your glycogen stores, and you hit it again hard, then your body will create more glycogen or more blood sugar through gluconeogenesis, basically breaking down proteins, dietary or through sparing muscle tissue. And that whole process will elevate cortisol, again, the stress response, making you more stressed, making you more metabolically deranged, potentially storing more fat downstream. So Potentially elevating your carbohydrate intake via starchy vegetables, zucchini, squashes, roots, tubers, things like that, potatoes. Um, Keeping in mind there is no magic number, but potentially dialing back a little bit on protein or fat and increasing the carbohydrate a little bit. Again, it's eating when you're hungry and eating until you're full. So I'm going to offer 2 questions for the next part of this. Why are you counting calories? And what led you to do that in the first place? And if it was because someone said you're not eating enough calories, but you're full when you eat and you only eat when you're hungry, then again, we may have to look into the other sources of like stress and sleep as to why you're storing fat. And how did you feel on 1,000 to 1,400 calories? It sounds like you were feeling okay. I didn't hear anything, read anything from your question that would lead me to believe that you were always hungry or had no energy. You're making strength gains. So if you're making strength gains, you have sufficient caloric intake to make those strength gains and work hard in workouts, then could potentially be 1,000 to 1,400 calories is okay for you. The other thing in terms of work quantity is actually that's something else. Never mind. If you're feeling sick to your stomach at 1,800 calories, we already talked about the stress thing, but it could just be that you're eating a lot of food, more than what you need at that particular time. So potentially too big of one meal. Maybe if you were going to increase calories to see how you feel, to see if you feel better, to spread those out throughout the day. But again, the question goes back to why were you weighing and measuring, or counting calories? And if it's not kind of a more of an intuitive feeling, eat when you're hungry, eat till you're full, then you could, again, that can create more overall stress and just lead you in that endless cycle of blame and calories and counting and dieting and work in, work out kind of thing, calories in, calories expended kind of thing. So let's take a step back, focus on quality first, which it sounds like both of you are doing. Eat when you're hungry, stop eating when you're full. Don't worry about counting the number of calories or the number of meals in a day. As a category of individuals in our gym who are just doing this to look, feel, and perform better, not to win $250,000, we got to keep perspective on just how deep into the minutia we get with this. The next greatest thing in paleo, Amy Cabal from Rob Wolf's website did a great post recently. Again, I'll put a link up, specifically discussing all the different new crazes or phases and fads in paleo, and really just going back to the root of it is very, very simple. It's simple to apply, simple to cook, and that's kind of where you got to go back to for the food aspect of it. We get caught in the cycle of counting calories and trying to stick to this new part of paleo plan, or this is better than that. And that all gets us more stress. And the more stress we feel, the harder it is to reach our goals of fat loss. So let's go back to triage. Sleep. Get sufficient sleep. Get your AM sunlight. Try and dim lights and see the sunset at night if you can. Be active during the day, not too late at night. Control your stress, emotional stressors. Are you having fun with what you're doing? Focus on food quality. Eating when hungry and stopping eating when you're full to be your caloric control. Consider increasing your carbohydrate intake a little bit if you're doing glycolytically demanding work, this is the conditioning part of the strength WOD you said you're doing. You can't be low carb when doing glycolytically demanding CrossFit kind of workouts. All right, so I hope that answered the questions about why we're not losing fat. Go back to the basics. And then as far as the zoning, I would not worry about quantity for the vast majority of us. Let's focus on quality and how you feel after a meal.